opinion and then we get into it. Bună ziua, numele meu este Octavian Szalad și suntem la Interviurile Teatrul Azi, aici de la Festivalul Shakespeare din Craiova. Acesta este al doilea interviu al zilei, din cea de-a 7-a zi de interviuri. Interviurile sunt realizate de Revista Teatrul Azi, revistă editată de Uniter, prin Fundația Culturală Camil Petrescu și finanțată de Ministerul Culturii. Invitatele mele de astăzi sunt Eva Schumacher și Laurien Schreuder, două actrițe, regizoare, compozitoare ale companiei Snow Apple Collective, a căror spectacol, îmi amintesc, se va juca mâine, 29 mai, de la ora 6 la Casa Armatei. Hello! Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being here.
Well, thank you for having us.
No worries. I would like to start our talk. Well, we talked a lot before we got on air, but let's talk a bit about Snow Apple Collective and how it became, who are the members of this collective, and what its specificity.
Snow Apple Collective almost exists 15 years, but in the beginning it was not a collective, it was a little band, a group of musicians. We actually started with 3 friends singing together, playing instruments, and we started playing all over the world, a lot in the United States, in Mexico, in France, Italy, Germany, and the Netherlands, UK. We were just traveling, playing, inventing ourselves, and we always had a lot of stories to tell. We used different ways of telling the stories, not only music, but also through costumes, through acting with the body, through dance, through placement in space. And at a certain moment we thought, okay, let's dive deeper into this storytelling element. And we decided to go study physical theater, mime specifically, and scenography at a school in Haarlem in the Netherlands. And that is when we invited also Eva Schumacher to be part of the collective, because we thought we are not just musicians, we're also filmmakers, we are actors, dancers, poets. So we wanted to be inclusive. We wanted everyone to be part of the game. It's not only the actors are the company or only the musicians. No, everybody counts, including the technicians. So for us, it's very important that this is deeply rooted in what we make, that everyone counts.
Great. And what are the particular stories that you talk? Of course, we're in a Shakespeare festival. The story that you will present tomorrow will be about Shakespeare, but what are the stories that you usually tell?
Well, the question is the story we are going to tell really about Shakespeare? Or was Shakespeare a person who could turn local political events or other bigger worldly topics through his writing onto the stage to tell stories? And we actually deeply dived into that with our play, because it's based on A Midsummer Night's Dream, and we used a lot of influences for Shakespeare, but we also wanted to tell the story of today and how we interact with the world, our world, and how do we see the world, and how should we find different ways to see the world. So that's specifically a theme that we want to talk about. We want to talk about minority voices, because we think it's very important that not only the mainstream voice is being told. So we love the stories from the underground, from the edges of society. So that's also what's happening tomorrow.
And how do you get to those stories? How do you research? How do you discover these underground stories?
Well, I think one of the way we have of working that is quite specific is that we always work from the artists we're working with. So we start from their stories and how they resonate with each other. And for this play in particular, how the personal stories resonate with the story of Midsummer Night's Dream. And I think this is something that makes it very vulnerable, is that all those stories are made by the tension between who you are deeply and who you are on stage, your experience of the world, and the tension between this and characters and how each other influences each other. So I think that's the process we had with this play of Shakespeare, was to work with the characters of Titania, Oberon, and Puck, and see how those characters can resonate with who we are as actresses, and for example, our story, our link to authority, to violence, to gender, to transformation also, because it's a very big story of transforming and mutation. So that's a bit our process. We start from the actress, and then we pull the string, or the musician, and we pull the string towards the play.
And how did you choose, we know that in the Midsummer Night's Dream you have two narrative directors.
Yeah.
We have the magical world, which you portray in your show, and then the human direction, let's say, with the couples. How did you choose between them? What attracted you more to the Puck, Oberon, Titania part of the text?
Well, I think we incorporated many elements from the two worlds. I was very obsessed by the words of the workers that have to make a play. So this is very present in the show because we present ourselves as makers trying to make a play. And we brought it to ourselves because that's deeply what we do. We kind of imagine the rules as they come, you know, of the theater. How are we going to talk about this? How are we going to invent ways of storytelling? Talk about, I don't know, like how do we incorporate fear, masks, etc. And then there was a magical world that took a big part because I think we're deeply touched by this subject of transformation. And that's what Titania and Oberon are all about. Also Puck more as a link, but they are characters that are going through something that is very intense. Of course, they are going through their love stories, but also they are changing because of this flower magical poison situation. And for us, what was very interesting with this story is that how it's an eye-opener.
Yeah.
So they use a mean that is the flower to open their eyes on a different reality, a very cruel one also, a very sensual one. So I think that's what interested us, because that's a bit what we want to do with our play, is like, how do we open our own eyes throughout the play, and how the actresses open their eyes to a different world.
The show is a collective work, but the text and the direction are signed by you, Eva.
Yeah.
How did you work on the text for this performance?
So we do a lot of back and forth, always, which means that I wrote some elements, then I share them with Laurien and Hillel, who also is on stage with us as Oberon and Titania and herself. And then you also reply with music, and then it keeps on growing in that way. I think that's a collective type of writing, because some text inspired you to write songs. Some we thought, okay, this is more something that has to be growing on stage, so we have to try it and then rewrite and then try again. So it's a lot of this movement of back and forth.
And how did you work on the music for this performance? Your performances are very musical. Your company, your collective also publishes records of a kind of alternative music, I would say. How did you work for this performance particularly?
Yeah, I think what is really interesting about the process of making a show together, what Eva is also saying, is that a lot is born during laboratories or residencies. So it also always takes us about 2 years to make a show, because we really deeply want to dive into the material. So first we all come together and we start reading the original texts. And then we start adapting those texts. We start inventing which bodies could possibly fit with these texts. And during these residencies, we also start to try the first melodies, the first instruments. And I started also from the original music, or for as far as I could research this, but I listened, for example, and Eva as well, a lot to Purcell's compositions or other Baroque compositions and instruments, and that made us to start trying things out with clavinet, with harpsichord, with string instruments. So you start really from there, but then you start incorporating your own world. And I have been traveling a lot to Mexico recently, so we started to see, okay, this jarocho instrument or techno even entering the stage. Because for us, freedom, and that's what this show is about, to find your own voice. My roots in the Netherlands are more coming from electronic music scene. So they slowly started to interweave, and it was also very beautiful to work together with Antonio Alemano and Ilela Lil, who are respectively cello player, charango, and Ilela Lil is like a music composer using a lot of electronics and computer samples in her work. So I think all of it takes a lot of time because we do really deep research together with the characters, but then eventually you come to something really original and very deep. So yeah, the music is not finished. Tomorrow we will represent a first version, and then already in Avignon, where we will be in July, we are adding new layers. We are going to incorporate a drummer and another string player. For me, music is also not just music. It goes really strongly together with the text and with the movement. So the compositions are highly influenced by what Eva has in her mind, movement-wise. Sometimes I make a song from A to Z, but like that, a song can never work in a theater play because the song doesn't start here and ends there. The song is a big journey together with the full journey of the play. So it's, yeah, I find it really beautiful to work together, and Eva also brings in musical ideas sometimes. Yeah.
So this is a work in progress. When do you consider, in this case, a work of theater finished? When do you say, oh, well, we won't put any more music, we won't put anything more on it?
I think it's never
or always
finished. Yeah. Because we always consider it as a very lively material. Yeah. So tomorrow, how I feel and about all the plays we did together, each time is different. Because it depends so much on the venue, the people that are in the audience, and we incorporate a lot of the inputs of the outside, also of the city, of the context of where we are. So I think we really try to do as much as we can that every night is something very different that people will experience, and then it's gone. And the night after, it will be something different. So I think we never really achieve a point where we think, okay, that's it, because also we always incorporate like external collaborators in our process to keep on growing depending on where we play.
Yeah, I think also we don't see the world as static, and we don't see our work as separately from ourselves. Our work is deeply rooted in ourselves, and we are constantly changing. And this play is also interesting because we are the workers. We lived our whole life to be ready for this moment, in this exact moment. So for us, it would be very boring if we start playing the exact same show all the time, because we want to really bring something, what you were saying, unique into it, and also our true feelings in that moment.
You said that you work on a performance 2 years or even more. Do you work for more performances at the same time?
Yeah, so we work on many separate projects, but we work with a theme. Yeah. We do, but maybe you want to tell a bit about the theme research.
Yeah, we decided a couple of years ago that it's very interesting to give some direction to the collective and to choose a theme on which we collectively work, and everybody brings in their own ideas. And then you make kind of a collective language based around this theme. So we did one that was cyborg experiments, and we all worked on the theme of cyborg, what it represented for us. And we do many workshops and residencies together with a lot of different artists from different disciplines. And out of that also these theater plays are born, such as what we will present tomorrow. That is born out of the theme of wilderness, where we are looking how to break free from the norm and what is actually the norm that we live in, what are the rules according to which we are operating. So we always work 2 or 3 years in one theme. So we are actually, when we say we work 2 years on this play, we were deeply into that theme, we were deeply into this play. But in the same time we are working, so we're sometimes presenting still past works or doing side projects. But it always, it's always based on a lot of synchronicities, and all the work we make in these 2 years are really connected, visually, text-wise, music-wise, instrument-wise. So, yeah.
And what are some previous themes then that you explored?
Yeah, so we started with intergalactic. That was the first unofficial theme. That was after the COVID times, where we were during the COVID, we were working a lot with the moon. We made a movie called The Moonless Night. We made a theater show called Mr. Moon. And then we started, when the doors started opening up and we could go out, we started working with intergalactic, because we thought, okay, we need to expand our view again. And then the first official theme was cyborg experiments, from which the theater play Cyborg Experiment 1 evolved, and a very big music production where we played with an orchestra, symphony orchestra called Utopia. And recently we finished our theme of wilderness, and the next theme we're working on is not officially released yet, so you should follow our social media channels and we'll update you, because soon it will be revealed.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. You, Eva, also play Puck in this performance. How did you work on Puck, and how did you level this relationship between a performer in the show and the author-director part?
Well, the first thing we did, which I think was interesting, the first laboratory about the play, we did a workshop where everybody read the play with a lot of artists and friends and collaborators, and we read the play, and then after that, everyone had to go on stage and explain the play, because it's the most complex one. So, and it was so interesting because I wanted to work with what remains when you read it, what remains for each person. And that gave us a lot of insight of what are the threads that people were really hanging on to. And for myself, Puck was a very big one, because I felt this character is both directing somehow the show, but also being completely overwhelmed by it. And what came out at the end is that I approach it as a character that only exists in this very small time frame of 1 hour and a half of the show. Puck belongs to the theater, it lives only in it, and when the shows end, everybody's gonna go out and he's gonna end up alone waiting for the next time. He's deeply, for me, rooted in what is the theater, and he's a very generous character because he tries to bring the story, he tries to bring the audience in, but he's also very lonely because he's manipulated by everyone, although he thinks he's manipulating them. And so that's how I approached it. And to travel through this, double, triple job, we worked with many help from outside. So first of all, as we work as a collective, we take a lot of decisions together, but also we have a scenographer, Lola Zeiler, that is working with us and is on stage. And she really brought a world also that really helped to build this. And we also work with physical theater coach, External Eye, that was my teacher a while ago at the Lecoq School. And so Miguel is really someone that could look from outside and really train us on a physical level to really embody those characters. So it was a very nice collaboration we had, because of course you cannot be inside and outside of the play. So you have to also trust in someone's eyes and dramaturgic understanding.
Yeah. And how did you work with Lola on the space, on the scenography, on the world building?
Well, the first idea we had was really to work on those theater settings with wooden panels, with really like the sea and something
again from
very,
the original. Yeah. We started from the original kind of ideas.
Elizabethan theater, super illustrative. And we wanted that to also go the same way than the music, which is to go from this tradition to something very contemporary. So it had to be multi-purpose type of stage design that was able to evolve throughout the show. So she made those beautiful panels that represents the forest, the magical forest, but progressively we keep on manipulating them on stage, and they change the space up to a space that is kind of a post-apocalyptic theater. So you really see the inside of the process of making a show at the end, which is exactly the same process than the workers are doing in the play, in the original play.
Yeah.
So and I think this was really nice because it gave us a lot of movement possibilities also to change the space, because of course it's a play with multiple spaces and storylines. So to have something extremely movable was a very big plus for us.
And you, Laurien, play also Titania and the donkey. And we know that from Shakespeare text, these two characters are very different. They have a particular relationship between each other, but they're not the same character. How did you work on this duality also in your part?
Well, Eva really related to Puck in this workshop, and I hated Titania, and I was really not happy that Eva was like, I think you should play Titania. But I love a challenge. But from the worker perspective, me as an actress, I was like, okay, how am I gonna do this role? Because I'm quite colorful, positive person, so I needed to look for this really jaded woman. And also what I discovered inside me doing that is that through culture and through where I come from, actually this kind of capitalist woman is maybe rooted inside me as well, even though I'm trying to hide it. So it is like, it's finding out the horrible side inside yourself, and it's very painful. And then you start thinking, how can I transform that? And then the donkey comes, and right now she is being drugged and falling in love with the ugly donkey. That is what the play said. But we were reading in the newspapers and in the news, and not only in the news, some of the people from our company experienced themselves that they got drugged and raped or tried to be violated. So it was a very harsh topic again for me to do that. And I was like, okay, how am I gonna do that? First of all, we thought, okay, this should come out of will to do it, because I shouldn't do anything against my will in this play. So I take my own fate in my own hands. And then also it was, okay, how do you embrace these dark parts? And I think instead of ignoring it and trying to change it, like open up for it and accept these dark parts in yourself. And then we did a tryout where I embraced this monster. I was like, okay, I can be this monster. I'm gonna just be it. I'm just gonna go for it. It's my own choice. I smell the flower and I become the monster. But then what happened is kind of sexual revolution because it's also, I think, together with how I'm raised as this specific woman in Western country, I am also raised to be very proper and not show any sexuality. And that was a very deep process for me. So that's also what we talked about before, like how theater and personal life, they are never separate. So I had to go through this really deep journey to connect these characters and to change the play and to choose my own play and to be Titania and embrace it and play her, but then to choose how do I want to end my story and how am I gonna leave the theater, because that's the message that we want to give to the audience. So yeah, that's what we did. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your theater, from what you say, is very politically involved. How did you choose your political perspectives in the performances that you work on?
Well, I do think that we approach, I think, of course, everything we do is very political, yeah, because we're so connected. We try by our collaboration to be connected with so many people. Yeah. Also the fact that we're based in 3 countries, in France, Netherlands, and Mexico, it makes you also always question your perspective on life, because you meet people that has a complete different one and a different experience, of course. But I also think that it's a very intimate topic. I think we go from also individual experience and see how that is political. And the fact that we work with also many people that are more from the margin, let's say, you have to question what you do, how do you do it, what is your subject, how do you even enter on stage. And I think that live shows are very political by nature, because you bring people with you on a journey and then you bring them back to the world. How do you even do that? How do you let them go back into the world? What do you want them to bring in, you know? And I think this is the moment where you can start to really question also your responsibility as a maker and as an actress, as a director. It's what do you bring on the table that is helping a little bit, you know, helping the people to go back to a world that is extremely violent and complicated, and yeah.
And in the Shakespeare play itself are already embedded few political themes, so they naturally came out. One that surprised me was how some of the texts really, for me, related to climate change, even to, because the king and the queen, they are fighting amongst each other and they don't even notice they're messing up the seasons. Yeah. That is what's been literally said in the texts. And I was like, this feels so true. We're so busy with ourselves and with our power that we don't even notice what is happening in the bigger world. So that was also, one of the topics, of course, close to our heart, because we see the world changing, and I think as artists we feel like extra responsibility to not be quiet about it, to raise our voices and to together discuss how we can find solutions. And we don't have a solution, we just want to open up the discussion and to do it together, because we really feel nobody's gonna change the world alone, you know. We gotta we gotta use everybody's will, strength, hope to to make the world beautiful.
And going a bit back to the music, we know that music has different roles in theater. If we talk about musicals, theater, music, or if we talk about classical political theater, Brechtian theater, in which music is used in a particular way. How do you use, and what's the role of music in your performances in relationship with the reception of the public?
Yeah, I think we use many different layers. I come from opera background, so for me also this aria or this is very important, how one song can really explain the character. And we use lyrics, but even the way of singing and the melody and the composition, and it adds up to showing this emotion in that particular moment. And also the friction between old music, new music, like experimenting. That's also a way of looking for freedom and looking to combine elements and to combine old world, new world together. So there's a lot of depth in how we make our compositions. And then for the rest, yeah, we use it for transitions, we use it for the mood, we use it to tell another storyline, because how the music begins and how the music ends is a big story. So we also don't stick to one genre. We really take the freedom to go between different genres. And we also change instruments. Like we start with a really little baby guitar, mini guitar, acoustic, and we end up with like electronic, multi-layered sound piece, and we find it really interesting to play with all these elements. So I don't know if that's answering the question.
Yeah.
One of the things that we used is when Eva started saying about the memories, how that is important, and the childhood. So going from classical music into modern music, we made a canon based a bit on like Frère Jacques, but then in another form. So we are singing this canon, and it's also a very specific way of singing together, but everybody singing something different. So we use a lot of different elements in the show. Music is also, I think, a lot of the play, we're not trying to explain something very specific. Like the nice thing about music is that everyone can find their own things in it. So it's also abstract in a way, and it's communicated on an emotional level, a little bit on an intellectual level with all the clever things we try to put in, but basically we try to make someone feel something.
Yeah, I think your way of working is also that it's never illustrative.
Okay, yeah.
In a way, because the music always comes to create a tension. Because sometimes I write something extremely dark, I send it to Laurien, and she brings back a composition that is from a very different mood, but then the contrast between the two, between the lyrics and the music, will give you a path toward something more subtle, you know? So we always try to work on this edge of how the music creates a tension with the emotion. So it's it's really nice.
It's deeply connected with the subconscious, I think, music. So when Eva gives a text, for me there's always only one way to write the composition. I just feel the text and this is what comes out. It's very difficult to give multiple versions, because this particular dark song I think you're referring to is Eva wrote a poem where, for Titania character, where everything she loves must die. And I thought, well, like, this is so dark, but she is not only a dark character. So I really felt how the song had to go. It had to come from, like, she really believes in herself, and she's like a child. She doesn't notice that her gestures are ruining the world in this moment in the play. So it became very emotional. but yeah, you have to hear it. It's difficult to talk about it, music.
Yeah, I understand. And besides music in your works, you use a lot of different mediums. Now your company publishes albums, as I said. It does movies, it does performances, it organizes festivals even. And my question is, what do you see? How do you see this modern theater in this aspect of multiple mediums that come together? How do you use multiple mediums? In the case of music, we understand, but how do you put together these different mediums?
Well, I think each time we work on a theme or on a story, the story itself asks for a medium.
Yeah.
And that's how we go to that point, is that we start to work on it, and then, for example, now we use also projection.
Yeah.
Because it became naturally, it came in the process, and we thought, okay, let's do it. We met collaborators that were working on that.
Yeah.
So I think the medium is always deeply connected to the concept, and I cannot foresee which mediums we're going to use, but I believe in a total theater. I really think anything you can use, if it's something that will add a layer to the storytelling, and if it helps to make the voices understandable, use it. And I also believe that we try, I think it's something I really care for, is that our shows are accessible from many different aspects. So we use many languages on stage because there are the languages that happen to be in that moment. So now the show we're going to present is in English and French. Sometimes we also learn the language of the country where we travel. You already did a show in Serbian because we try to really be understandable, but at the same time, if you don't understand everything from the wording because of any situation, you still have the music, you know? You can still get something from that. If you don't get the music, you still have the movement. If you don't get the movement, the visuals will take over. So it's a bit, how do you give tools also to the audience to feel something? And I think we're really from a minimalistic theater. That's really not where we come from. We worked with very big costumes also. But it's also, I think it's a way to give the story all the amplitude it can have.
Yeah.
That's maybe, I don't know if you...
Yeah, I think I agree. And then maybe to add, we are artists, and we mentioned it a couple of times before, how for us, the world, our private life and the arts, they totally fuse all the time. So the theater for us is not always enough to tell the story. Also, we think sometimes it's even a bit outdated to go into a black box theater because the world is opening up, and in the Western world, people are becoming more and more individualistic and more with the screen. So on the one hand, okay, maybe you also want to make something for a screen because people are more on the screen, so we try. But also we want to find ways for people to connect, and maybe other places are needed and need to be developed. So we love to experiment with that, because the theater play itself, of course, we're making it, but why do we make it? Because we want to open up the discussion, we want to open up the imagination, and this is a very important part. So we also always prefer to play in theaters where afterwards you can talk, you can drink, you can have other things around it, and if people like it, they can come maybe to do a workshop with us, or they can online find more material. So it's not only one theater show, they can listen again to the music, or they can read the texts. So for us, it's very important that the experimental part is important. We try things and we look for feedback and other ideas, and we keep on evolving. So we don't have one solution. The only thing we think is don't get stuck, keep on moving. And we love playing on the street. we love playing in social places, schools, and yeah, exploring new ways.
But your company is developed in 3 different countries, as you said, in Netherlands, in France, and in Mexico. And continuing this discussion, I'm curious, how do you build a community with this, working in these 3 very different cultural spaces, and also being in Romania, traveling to different cultural spaces?
Well, we travel a lot,
Yeah.
that's to say. And also we have local collaborators and artists that keep on working on the floor.
Yeah.
We also have regular appointment in the year, which is our festival that happens in the 3 countries.
Yeah.
And every time that's a big moment of creating a residency, meeting artists, putting also different artists in contact with each other. And from that, start to really build a community. We try to also come back as often as we can to create real connection with the audience.
Yeah, and we hope to also build a community here in Romania and to come back and to start collaborating also with musicians from here, because the music is very interesting, both the folkloric and also this minimal house kind of things we already heard. So we really prefer to go somewhere and to build something more solid. And we also love to bring people then from here to France, Mexico, the Netherlands. So in Mexico is a big success, our residency space. It's called Casa Snow Apple Mexico. And every year, like, artists go there to develop new work in collaboration with local artists from Mexico. And some of these local artists from Mexico also come to visit Paris or the Netherlands. So we're really building also bridges. And yeah, it's very beautiful to work together with international collaborators. So the community is a network of like-minded people, or not like-minded, because we're open for discussion. It's good to have some friction as well, yeah.
And your festival is called Jardin Rouge Festival.
Yeah.
And what does it consist of? Your performances?
I think the 3 different editions, depending on the country, are different because they're rooted also in what the country brings us. So in Paris, it's kind of a cabaret festival where many artists come. It always comes from a residency before, where we work with artists to develop new material. And also it's a platform for artists to show work in progress around the theme that they're still figuring out. In Paris, it's very cabaret style because we are quite deeply in the underground queer scene. I think in Mexico, it's a bit different because it's longer performances and it comes from all those residencies. So it has a bit more this research aspect to it. And in Amsterdam, it's very much based in the free spaces, because I think that's autonomous spaces, though it has more of this political aspect of finding free places to create.
Yeah.
So it's very different, and it's a research center, let's say.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Your performance is played tomorrow, right? It's called I Remember, after A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's played at 6 at the Army's House. And I'll change really quick to Romanian for the outro. Vă mulțumim din nou că sunteți alături de noi. Acesta a fost cel de-al 2-lea interviu al zilei. Spectacolul Îmi amintesc, o variațiune după Visul unei nopți de vară, poate fi văzut mâine, 29 mai, de la ora 6 la Casa Armatei, și vă așteptăm la 15:30, când colega mea, Raluca Cărciumaru, va vorbi cu actorul Ștefan Iancu. Vă mulțumim!